We have an important hearing this morning examining the cost of overclassification on transparency and security. Sunlight is said to be the best disinfectant. Without knowing what our government is doing, we can't ensure it is operating efficiently and effectively. It's also important to remember that the American people pay for the Federal Government. Federal government works for the American people. It's not the other way around. And so it is, you would think, logical to make sure that we are as open and transparent and accessible as possible. But this is always a running battle, and we always have to find the proper balance between safety and security and openness and transparency. But we can't give up all of our liberties in the name of security. And so we have this hearing today with 4 experts, people who have poured their time, effort, talent, their careers really into this topic. There's a wealth of information that they're going to share with us, and that's what we're excited to hear about today. Without knowing what our government is doing, we can't ensure it's operating efficiently and effectively, as I said. Transparency is the basis ultimately for accountability. At the same time, transparency into certain government activities can create an opportunity for those who wish to do us harm. And so Congress gives some agencies the authority to withhold certain information from public disclosure. This authority to classify information and create secrets is needed to protect our national security. I don't think anybody doubts that there should be a degree of this. The question is, what degree of this? When you give the authority to classify certain information, Congress has a role to play in making sure that authority is being properly exercised. Overclassification of information has become a concern. Estimates range from 50 to 90% of classified material is not properly labeled. In the 1990s, Congress established the Commission on Protecting and Reducing Government Secrecy to study those issues and develop recommendations. In 1997, the Commission issued a final report, including 16 recommendations. 3 of those recommendations were implemented, 7 were partially implemented, and 6 remain open today. The Chairman of the Commission, the late Senator Patrick Moynihan, wrote, and I quote, "If the present report is to serve any large purpose, it is to introduce the public to the thought that secrecy is a mode of regulation. In truth, it is the ultimate mode, for the citizen does not even know that he or she is being regulated," end quote. Patrick Moynihan, hats off to him and his leadership in understanding and really helping to champion this effort to move forward and really examine the degree of which secrecy is needed in our nation. Here, we don't even know what can hurt us. As the tendency to overclassified information goes, so does the lack of accountability to both Congress and the American taxpayer. The Commission also warned about the dangers of restricting information from those who actually do need it. Looking back, that point seems almost prophetic in light of the events that went unfold on September 11th, 2001. After conducting an exhaustive study of the attacks, the 9/11 Commission issued its own report that found we need to move forward from a system of need to know to a culture of need to share. What we've learned is that overclassification can also be damaging to national security, or at a minimum, it can lead to second-guessing what might have been if we were only able to get the information in the right hands at the right time. According to a report by the Information Security Oversight Office at the National Archives, in the last 10 years, the Federal Government has spent more than $100 billion on security classification activities. In fact, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter that report into the record. Without objection, so ordered. Last year alone, classification is estimated to have cost $16 billion. It's unclear what exactly the taxpayers got in return for this expense. There was presumably some level of greater security as a result of restricting access to certain information. Again, no doubt that there needs to be classification and needs to be implicated, but at what level? This leads us to a number of basic questions. Does the billions of dollars spent to classify make us safer? How much money did we spend on security clearances for folks who probably didn't need them in the first place? Earlier this week, the Washington Post reported the Department of Defense found $125 billion in savings over 5 years by simply streamlining bureaucracy. $125 billion. Give you an idea, the entire state of Utah, everything we do in Utah, it's a smaller state, granted, But everything we do, from education to the National Guard to roads and paying teachers, is about $14 billion. And here at the Department of Defense, 5 years savings, $125 billion by simply streamlining bureaucracy. The Department of Defense was sufficiently embarrassed by this, as they should be, and decided to bury the study. Trust me, we are going to look into this. According to the article, quote, the Pentagon imposed secrecy restrictions on the data, which ensured that no one could replicate the findings, end quote. Not what we should be doing as a nation. It's a prime example of why we're holding this hearing today, and when agencies have a tool to keep information from the public, Congress must ensure those tools aren't used for nefarious reasons. I look forward to discussing these issues with the witnesses today. I thank the panel of experts for coming before the committee to help us better understand some of the complexities of the government secrecy. I think you'll find that Congress, in particular this committee, has a keen interest on this. The committee has been a leader and a champion of the Freedom of Information Act as one of the tools that is important for the American public to understand what their government's supposed to be working for them, is actually doing. So I look forward to this discussion. Somebody I knew who holds an equal passion for this is my colleague, Elijah Cummings, a ranking member from Maryland, and I'd like to recognize him for his opening statement.
Thank you very much.